World of Warcraft, the game with a patch cycle so insane, I think I'm going to start selling you guys whiplash insurance. But okay, this is not a drill. The feature that we expected for the last Titan at the earliest may actually be with us in just 2 months. And oddly, it's not even in Blizzard's official update, but what we've seen data mined in patch 1207 is a heroic world tier. It's really cool. It's on the PTR build that just went live. It's all coming in patch 1207. And you know what? As much as there's a lot of rumbly news about the game these days, this patch has a hell of a feature set, and today, that's what we'll be getting into. Heroic and Mythic World Tier then. So it is located right here in the actual build. It's not available yet, but the way it works is that in the new patch's mini-zones, Xiao, get to mini-zones, you get to choose your world tier. Now, in the actual game, you've got normal and heroic, but in the data mining, there's text alluding to a mythic tier as well. We might not see that just yet, but hey, all the same, heroic world tier is a real thing. And it comes along with an achievement list that looks fairly similar to the Legion Remix version of a heroic world tier. There's mobs that'll have affixes to deal with, though we don't know just what kind of affixes yet. But if you played Legion Remix, you'll have an idea of what this is, but if you didn't play it, well, here's the short version. Mobs were all buffed to be substantially harder to kill, and what made them a real challenge was then the affixes that were applied. Some had a 40% stat buff, you'd have to stun them to dispel it, it was pretty neat. Others exploded on death, so just like those bastards dropping their grenades in Call of Duty 4 back in the day. Others summoned in dangerous lieutenant demons with massively damaging AoEs to dodge. Those were bad enough, but on top of that, you'd get commander-type enemies that would buff other enemies nearby. So to clear out a camp of enemies, you'd have to watch what you were pulling, what affixes they had, and then use all of your tools. It basically felt a lot more like Classic or the Burning Crusade with a little twist of Diablo. Based on what we've seen, we can expect a fairly similar system here, though I imagine they've had time to come up with a few better affixes and change some of the ones that people didn't like. So, last time round in Lemix, it was fun, people loved it, so I hope this version broadly goes similarly. I hope this experiment is a success because then, well, we'll have a whole world on Heroic before too long. As for rewards from this, well, you'll get Field Accolades, that's one of the currencies from patch 1205, along with some gear. On normal, it'll be champion gear, so Heroic should be giving you hero gear. And by the time the patch drops, this will be near the end of the season, so it's clearly catch-up. Basically, it's farmable hero gear from doing heroic solo content. Yeah, this game really is just a buffet of stuff to do at this point. But you know what? There's something I haven't told you yet, and that is the world part of World Tier here. Because it turns out, we're actually going to other worlds. Given this is a minor patch, it's obviously a test run, so it's not the full world, it's not all of Midnight. But it is still a world tier, rather literally, because we've got 2 returning worlds from the Legion expansion, and specifically the Legion Portal feature of the Argus patch. They are called Naigtal and Val. They are 2 ex-Legion planets, and they're relevant again because of the Dominar and Ethereal shenanigans that we first learned about in patch 1205. It's really cool, actually. In 1205, there's loads of flavor text on little grey items, bits of loot, that all kind of points towards this, so it's a really cool little progression. But anyway, they're up to no good in these worlds, so we have got to go and put a stop to them. But instead of simple boss fights, this time they've actually been updated to be mini-zones. They're more chunky, they've got world quests, rares, events, and boss fights called showdowns. And you know what? This is pretty genius in Blizzard's end, if I'm honest with you. These planets are little micro-doses of new content. They are, yes, reusing Legion assets, but I'm completely happy with that. Basically, we gotta go to 2 really cool-looking worlds, do a bunch of content, kill a bunch of bosses, get a bunch of loot. That sounds like core WoW to me. But then, they're using the Heroic World tier to both add a shot more of excitement and, well, to run an experiment. All with this one feature. So you know what? I think this is pretty damn smart. Obviously, that is assuming it works and is balanced, which in the current day of WoW is not really a sure thing, but if they stick the landing, I think these could be great. Hopefully the world quests and rares are a little bit more interesting than the usual fare. I don't think those are 2 words that get anyone frothing at the mouth to log in these days, but with the Heroic World tier layered on top and a few more things, I think they will be able to pull it together. And that's especially because Blizzard are getting good at reusing their old playbook with a few new twists, which is what brings me to the next thing in this patch, which is our new borrowed power. This is an Omnium Folio, and we're all gonna get one. And you know what? They kinda look familiar at first glance. It is another type of mid-season borrowed power designed to give endgame content just a last little push and make catching up a bit easier. But this time, there is genuinely a twist. First thing, for the first time in a long time, it's not a piece of gear, so I guess Blizzard are trying to avoid the usual issues of the likes of, say, the Titan Belt and Cersei Circlet from the War Within. You see, the Omnium Folio is actually just a character buff that we power up over time. And honestly, I don't have a crazy amount to say about it right now. It's on the PTR, the numbers are obviously subject to change, but as it stands, it seems like a fairly standard kind of talent setup. There's a core rune, which is a choice between two different effects, and then over the weeks following launch, you'll be able to power it up with new options, which includes self-healing and some secondary stats. So it seems fairly simple, a flavorful enough way to power yourself up and get across the line at the end of the season, but I would at least say, if we've got a heroic world tier that we're going to be getting hero gear from, and if that stuff's going to be decently challenging, then a feature like this I think actually makes more sense than it traditionally would. Now obviously we have no idea if this is just a patch 1207 thing, or if it's something that will last the duration of this expansion. It may be nice to just have it the whole time for a change, but if they do that, it will create a few bumps that they'll have to smooth over with players coming back to patch 12.1 who obviously wouldn't have this thing. But either way, it's good to see Blizzard trying something new with their mid-season power bump. Okay, let's talk about one of the ways you'll be able to spend that power in our new raid. I wasn't expecting any surprises with the raid, but Blizzard have managed it. There is a surprise. Now, we all knew that it would be one new boss located in Harrendar. We knew that the raid would be called Sporefall, but we didn't really know anything else. Though, Blizzard did of course slip in an interview that it would have Mythic Flex, allowing 15 to 25 people into a Mythic fight for the first time ever. Now the surprise is this. The gear that it drops is Mythic Warbound gear. At least it is in the PTR. Who knows, maybe this is a mistake that won't make it to live, but it certainly has raised eyebrows. Is the idea here to clear it on alts to funnel gear to a main? Or is it for full Mythic geared players to trade down to their alts? And given that it's Warbound gear, does that just mean everyone will spam need on everything? Well, I have absolutely no answer to those questions because Blizzard have not said anything yet, and if this is an experiment, I would expect them to let us know fairly soon. At the very least, we'll find out whenever we actually get to fight Rotmire, and with Flex, maybe many, many more guilds we'll get to on Mythic difficulty as well. I certainly hope so. Okay, I've talked about features, but let's talk about theme, story, some of the stuff that's going on in Azeroth. So, there's a fairly troll-heavy story in this patch, and perhaps in 12.1, we're not exactly sure, but along with that, we're actually getting some new lore walking. And it's quite neat. It's focused on the stories of the Loa, which means we dive into all the disparate troll tribes. Now, Lily is taking over from Cho as assistant lore walker, which is a great way to give us more time with a fan-favorite character. No offense to Cho, of course, we do love him as well. You may not know, but his voice actor Jim Cummings is also Winnie the Pooh. Now, the troll lore walking is the one they announced, but data mining has also uncovered a Thrall lore walking. That would be pretty neat. And as sad as it is that there are players who don't know Thrall's story, you know what? I think this sort of thing just makes perfect sense to connect all of his bits of story together. From what we can tell from data mining, we've got the likes of his time in Durnhold, which basically is a human internment camp. No, an orc internment camp ran by humans. From there all the way through to Cataclysm and the killing of Garrosh, he's a dude who has seen and done a lot. So to have that all in one place would be absolutely awesome. But of course, lore walking is about the past. It exists to give us context and to help us experience stories, but it does that in order to make the current stories land. So let's talk about 1207's new story. 1207 story is going to have a lot of troll-related stuff. You may have remembered whenever you were questing around Zolaman that there is just a little body of water, and on the other side of that, a huge island. Yeah, so the trolls, elves, and Haranir basically end up in this patch coming together to talk about the past, and that somehow leads to us and our future patch island. Of course, if you've watched this lore video that we did, you'd know about some of that past lore. It's actually really cool. It involves like Xal'atath, the past, her messing around with trolls, big old god generals, loads of really cool stuff. Now, there is a lot of talk from PTR, and I don't want to just do the story dirty by pulling noteworthy bits out of their context and just blasting them to you. But what I can say is that it focuses on Zul'Jan. That's a character many people are invested in, so hopefully this ends up being a good thing. Now, I can also say the last chapter is called The Battle of Atal'utek. That's this big island, the one that the most recent Blizzard interview heavily alluded to, and from the context it seems we'll be finding out about a past battle, and perhaps a future patch, say 12.1, will be properly located on that island. And hey, if that is what's going on, then having more like prologue and sort of lead-in story, that is always a good thing, because if there's one thing WoW's A-plot tends to suffer from, it's having nowhere near enough runtime. But what's more important than any of that is, of course, the property market. No, I'm joking. Okay, we're going to talk about some housing updates. There's some pretty neat ones. Now, most importantly, Blizzard says they're aware of the flooring issue, and they'll hotfix it as soon as they can. But for 12.07, well, we are getting a long-awaited feature, which is outdoor lighting. Now, there's one restriction. Lights can't overlap. This is obviously a performance thing, because as soon as you are stacking lights on top of each other en masse outside, it is just a recipe for disaster, performance-wise. But thankfully, we can see they've designed some good UX for that. Now, on top of this, they've also added in 100 bits of new common decor to the decor vendors, which is certainly good. It's a lot of decor, and some of them are incredible additions. Though, obviously, if you've seen some of the news headlines going on, you may be thinking about that very expensive bundle that's in the game right now. We don't like it, but let's move on to the next thing, which is UI updates. The UI team are clearly hard at work, and we have got some great news for add-on dodgers in this patch, because the personal resource display is getting an overhaul. It's got a ton of new options, from appearance to size to visibility, and not just of the frame itself, but of the individual parts, like, say, combo points. There's a class color option if you don't like the default green, and you can add in some text. Now, there's no sign of the really cool old option that had it follow your character, but this is certainly one huge step closer to a functional add-on free setup within WoW. But the best update is actually to boss timelines. It was kind of insane that the vertical layout had no text options, but thankfully now it does. You can put text on the right, which is going to be a massive improvement for most people's setups. Better late than never. There's a ton of minor changes as well, like the damage meter showing up in groups and having a smaller size limit, but there are no major updates on the actual functionality of that feature, at least not ones that we've found on the PTR. Hopefully, though, it's a bit more reliable than it has been recently. That's still not it for features. We're almost caught up, but there's a little more to go. Timewalking's catching up fast because Dragonflight has now been added to the feature, which definitely makes me feel old. The Turbulent Timeways event is also back as well, though, and that will be giving a huge XP boost and, of course, mounts for your alt leveling. Now, it does not include the Dawn of the Infinite's mega dungeon, sadly. That thing's awesome. And given that Algrathar Academy is in the current seasonal rotation, I really doubt anyone's in a rush to do that in Timewalking, but hey, at least they're adding in the Spawn of Veranoth mount, which certainly looks cool. Though to be honest with you, it's a little bit weird. I mean, we know Veranoth, we've had a few chats with her, don't know where she's been lately, but it would be a bit strange if we kind of rock up saying, "Hello, Veranoth. This is one of your spawn. It's ours now." Anyway, that's still not the end of the features, and this last one, while it's technically small, I think it's actually huge. Alrighty, so in the long run, this could be absolutely goddamn huge. There is a new ritual site that's called Blinding Bloom, and it's located in Harrendar. And also, ritual sites are getting a new difficulty option. We are going to see Tier 6 difficulty, and to activate Tier 6, you will need to activate 6 challenges, which is getting into the territory of being brutally hard. But here's the big thing. As a reward, they will drop 5 myth crests, and that does mean there is now a solo farmable way to get myth crests in World of Warcraft. Now, of course, at this point, gearing in WoW is close to just being blown wide open. The only thing you can't solo fully is myth gear. at least via this, you can get Myth Crest, which could be useful for the odd upgrade if you happen to find some Myth gear, maybe from your Great Vault, but certainly it'll be nice for the people who just want to craft a bunch of Myth gear. Now, of course, there's every chance this is just a thing for the late season period of time. Blizzard clearly likes having a season open up in multiple parts. We saw 1205 add in ritual sites in the Void Forge. Now 1207 is bringing more to the ritual sites, it's bringing showdowns, the new planet things, and of course, with those showdowns, farmable hero gear, and then the Folio. So lots of power boosts here. So who knows, maybe farmable Myth Crests will not be a thing at the launch of patch 12.1, but we'll just have to see how the experiment goes. Though, we should probably keep our eyes on this patch instead of the next one. There's a good reason why. So look, being honest with you, this seems like a real solid patch, at least in terms of its features. The Heroic World tier alone ranks as a super important one, and the idea of 2 mini-zones feels really cool for a mid-season patch, especially when they're reusing Legion worlds in a way that is great for lore and that saves the team resources. I think that's genuinely a win-win for everyone, and maybe thanks to that, 1207 will launch in an acceptable state. But after the response to the last patch between the bugs and the balance, I think it's obvious that the goodwill of most players for this expansion is beginning to run dry. And oddly enough, it's not because of the content or the gameplay, it's basically because of the quality of the service, the quality of delivery that we've been getting, and the quantity of bugs combined with some store offerings that are honestly quite repulsive. So, 1207 looks like a really cool patch, but what it really is Blizzard's next chance to prove that they are serious about this game. And for the sake of this game, by the way, I do actually enjoy playing a hell of a lot, I really hope they pull it off. But if you want to pull off the veil of the mysterious Troll Island, you should watch this video next. It is all about the Troll Island and the really cool lore that we now know we are definitely going to be exploring. So you'll probably enjoy the patch a good bit more if you watch this video before it.